All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. We got to take a look at this video of Piers Morgan sitting down with Richard Dawkins, who is an evolutionary biologist, been in the field for a long time. He studies biology, so you're going to have a hard time telling him that it's more than two sexes or more than two genders or whatever. Now, people who believe in multiple sexes and hundreds of genders are oftentimes atheists. They don't have any faith in Christianity or Islam or anything like that, because, you know, that those books, the Quran and the Bible, hurt their feelings. There's some things inside those books that would definitely hurt their feelings. And, you know, God made men and women also in there, you know, that would hurt their feelings, like I said. Well, Richard Dawkins is an atheist, so you're not going to hear him citing the Bible or talking about God and any of the answers that he gives. This is just from his work as a biologist, studying biology and, you know, doing what he does. But we're about to get into this. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe while we're watching. Now let's roll it.
What's extraordinary to me is they want to, what they call degender and neutralize language, but they're doing it from a completely false pretext that you can somehow pretend biology doesn't exist, particularly when it comes to someone's sex. I mean, it's incontrovertible. There's no scientific doubt about this. And yet a small group of people have been quite successful, actually, in reshaping vast swathes of the way society talks and is allowed to talk.
It's bullying. And we've seen the way J.K. Rowling has been bullied, Kathleen Stock has been bullied. They've stood up to it. But it's very upsetting the way this tiny minority of people has managed to capture the discourse and to really talk arrant nonsense.
What's the answer to it?
Science. I mean, there are two sexes. You can talk about gender if you wish, and that's a subjective. I'm not.
But when people say there are 100 genders, for example.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that.
He's not interested in none of that. You heard him. He just speak in plain English. Now, how did this small minority of people manage to, you know, do things like change the language and change the discourse and tell people what they can and cannot say and what they can and cannot think about gender and about sex and things like this? I think it's not only the people within that small minority, but it's also the allies of that small minority. And, you know, it's the large amounts of people who don't want to be seen as a homophobe or transphobe or, you know, whatever label that gets slapped on them. They don't want to be seen as those things, so they go along with what the mob is saying. And then at higher up positions like government officials and things like that, they will use the LGBTQ and trans community as a shield to get votes. Whether they actually believe in it or actually support it is an entirely different question, but they know that on face value, if they appear in favor of these small minority communities like the trans people, like the LGBTQ community, that they will gain popularity in Western society, because Western society nowadays, it leans more towards favoring these people. The same reason why when the BLM riots were going on, all these companies were donating and showing their support. The same reason why when Stop Asian Hate was a thing, you had video games displaying it, promoting Stop Asian Hate. You had all types of other different companies. These entities will cater to whatever, you know, minority group or oppressed group that they need to cater to. That's what allows these small minority groups' voices to become louder and louder.
As a biologist, there are two sexes, and that's all there is to it.
You had a Humanist Award stripped in 2021 because of your comments about this kind of thing. You had a tweet in April of that year. In 2015, you tweeted, Rachel Dolezal, a white chapter president in America of the NAACP, was vilified for identifying as black. She was white. Some men choose to identify as women. Some women choose to identify as men. You'll be vilified if you deny that they literally are what they identify as. Discuss. And all hell broke loose and you had your award stripped because you were effectively doing what J.K. Rowling and others have said. You were just espousing a biological fact.
I wasn't even doing that. I was asking people to discuss. Discuss. That's what I've done all my life in universities.
Why have we lost that ability to actually have an open and frank debate?
There are people for whom the word discuss doesn't mean discuss. It means you've taken a position, which I hadn't. But anyway, I thought it was a reasonable thing to discuss. This was, on the one hand, I actually wrote a couple of follow-up articles to this. Race is actually a much more fluid concept than sex. For one thing, many people are of mixed race, so they really can be, you know.
Well, I had my DNA done, for example,
Yes.
properly tested. It came back, I had 0 English DNA, 0. I actually have 6% Middle Eastern.
Yes.
For example,
Yes.
right? So that was a shock to me. I had no idea.
Yes.
A lot of Celt, a lot of Irish and Scottish and Welsh.
Yes.
But no English whatsoever.
Yes. Well, we're all mixed, and therefore it actually is a perfectly reasonable thing for somebody to identify as some particular race if they want to. But sex is not like that.
If you get your DNA done properly, you'll see that you have a little bit of this and a little bit of that in you. So it makes more sense if you would want to identify as, you know, a different race or a different culture, because you might actually have that in you. But to identify as a woman, if you're a man, or vice versa, you either got XX or XY chromosomes. So although this idea that you could just fluctuate between any gender if you want to, and, you know, it's all just fluid, although this idea has managed to become popular, I think we really need to get back to basics. And, you know, if you ain't religious, listen to what the best evolutionary biologist tells you. And if you are religious, you know that God made man and he made woman. And that's really all the discussion is. Now, I also just want to quickly talk about what he said about discussing. You know, he lost out on an award for simply wanting to have a discussion about something. But you'll notice now there are people who want to have discussions, and then there are just people who are completely outraged by the position you take and will throw slurs and names at you because you take these positions, or because you even want to have a discussion about the positions. And those people are just intellectually bankrupt. You know, emotional toddlers. You should be able to have discussions with people you disagree with. I think that's a lost art in Western society.
Sex really is binary, and therefore it's certainly worth discussing that odd anomaly, which I pointed out in that tweet.
All right, guys, so that's it for the video. Now, although I may disagree with Richard Dawkins when it comes to faith and, you know, believing in God and that there is a higher power, you know, he not saying nothing wrong here. He not saying nothing wrong here about this particular topic. What he's saying is true. And the people who aren't religious, just like him, the people who don't believe in God, just like him, need to actually take into consideration the things that he's saying and being open to having discourse with people who you may disagree with, because at the end of the day, you'll never grow. You'll never learn. You'll never evolve if you just stay in the same echo chamber of woke thought. You have to challenge, you especially have to challenge woke thought, because most of what the wokes teach, most of what the wokes believe, if you challenge it, you get this big nasty label thrown at you, and it really is a deterrent from having discussions and moving the needle at all. But that's it for the video, you guys. Let me know what you thought about this in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe when you're at the door. And until next time, you guys, I'm out of here. Peace.